My name is John Mangual, and I'm a Puerto Rican. I grew up in New York City, and then I moved down to PR about 3 years ago to do some freelance data science. A lot of the stuff I had been doing was related to open governance. In the United States, there are no laws that require government agencies to be more open. As U.S. citizens can now petition for almost any document that appears on our federal agency desk. It's not perfect law, it has limitations, but some examples of some things people have sued for. Hillary Clinton's emails. We can read all of the Secretary of State's emails, and I recommend that you Google the Hillary Clinton email data set. I think it's very interesting. She talks about the war in Iraq, she talks about Benghazi, she talks about all sorts of things. In Puerto Rico, being a territory, right, we're sometimes part of the United States, we're sometimes not. So we're going to discuss about how that complicates things. And I think this is important because you guys are not part of the United States. And in Latin America, things will get simpler in some cases and more complicated in others. But I just compared the situation in the United States and Puerto Rico. There's two major centers in the country where data science is becoming more popular. So there's San Francisco. This is where you have your Facebook. This is where you have Google. This is where you have Twitter. All of them have data scientists. eBay, Walmart, and any store you can think of, they have people calculating the next thing you're going to buy, the next page you're going to look at. Are we doing that in Puerto Rico? Are we taking that same technology and using that in the Caribbean? Sadly, I can't say it's the case in Puerto Rico. I mean, it's something we're just starting to figure out now, is how to better serve the public, and it's something that you guys should be vouching for here in the Dominican Republic. You have free and extremely efficient tools to solve community problems. So what do we want from data science? We want a more informed public. Is the public well informed? Do we need a government? Does the government always make the right decision? Do businesses always make the right choice? So I think this slide is pretty good. So how did it play out in Puerto Rico? 3 years ago, I was this man, Giancarlo Gonzalez, and he was at that point the CIO of Puerto Rico. So he was the CIO of the entire island. We had a new governor, Alejandro Garcia-Padilla, and he wanted to make the government more technological, right? And we were gonna run the government like an app, and everything was gonna be super awesome. 2015, his office is gone. Okay? The path is not always so clear cut. How does this happen? We started off good, and 3 years later, there's no longer CIO. What do you do then? I was like, what is going on? And it's hard to explain in the States. I lost sleep over this. I would go to bars and get drunk just thinking about this. What is going on? And I found some simple statistics. In the States, I think, is it really this low? I found 73% of houses with internet. That seems kind of low, but I don't think this includes mobile phones. I think mobile phones, I think the number is even higher. But also look at this number here, the median household income here. This is about 51 grand. And it's about $20,000 in Puerto Rico. So a typical household in Puerto Rico, even though it's based on the US dollar, has a lot less to work with. Number one, there's a lot less education. We speak a different language, and there's just overall a lot of less infrastructure to work with. So you can't just take a solution that works in the United States and say, hey, let's just use it in Puerto Rico and assume it's going to work. All right? This is going to be important for you. I mean, it's wonderful. Open source is beautiful. take someone else's solution, and 99% of the time it's going to work, just out of the box. This is for those 1% of cases when you're going to really have to think, how is my situation different? And, you know, when I go on the street, it comes out to two very simple questions. What is data? You know, where does it come from? Business owners ask me, what kind of data do I have? They say this to me with the cell phone in their hands, and then they ask me what the data is. You guys are constantly generating and consuming data, all right? And a lot of that you can just take in and analyze. So, what are some first places to look? The government's not totally nuts. You know, there are two offices. There's the Institute of Statistics, which is an independent. This is the Puerto Rican situation. I haven't researched the case with immigration. We have the Institute of Statistics from a guy named Mario Morazzi, and as you can see, their website is a little bit kind of it's like 90s. But they have a lot of information there. They have a lot of Excel spreadsheets, and they have gas prices, the taxes, airfares. They're kind of interesting. In 2014, back when there wasn't CI results, they tried to make something more modern. You can't read this very well. This is the Catastro Digital. That is the property registry in Puerto Rico that may go under a different name. This one is the OGP, which is the permissions. So there are some data sets available. So, I mean, this is an example from the Institute. You get all these Excel spreadsheets, like I said. In this case, it's the house price index. There's also a problem with this data set. If you're going to look at houses anywhere. I mean, what do you do with like annual, if you want to study housing, and if you want to look for the price of houses in your area, does this number tell you very much? It doesn't tell you very much at all. I think you have a better chance of looking at Zillow and getting more information than you do on this government website. So even though there is government data, it's a pretty old quality. This is from data.pr.gov. This is a little bit better. Which one do we have here? This is the number of people who use the subway system in each month. It's a little bit informative, right? You can see it kind of fluctuates, you know, from month to month. So there's some data going around. In the United States, there's a law called FOIA, which I already mentioned. It allows you to ask for government agencies. For data. What happens when there's no law where you're from to get that type of information? I'm pretty sure is there any such law here? I doubt it.
To get government data?
To get government data. How do you collect it?
There is a law that lets you ask recently passed law documents. I don't know about statistics data, but there is policies that
There's some.
La ley de
So there's something, right? So you can talk about, there's some law, but I doubt you could go to your senator's office and say, let me take a copy of that paper. No, so it's not nearly as aggressive here. So, I mean, I got sick of this, and one day I said, let me just try something. The bus systems in Puerto Rico, so I go from the suburbs to Old San Juan every day. I wanted a bus schedule. They don't publish bus schedules or even bus routes. I was brand new to the island, and I needed a way of measuring where the buses were going. I said, what could I possibly do? So I just went and looked in my phone one day for just apps that people use to keep track of their kids or to keep track of jogging. And I just downloaded one of these things. Instead of running I kept track of the bus, and I began to record a bus map. I mean, all these apps have all kinds of unintended uses. And this is what I came up with. I was actually able to, with a fair amount of Python analysis, this is a real-time analysis of my book. I got it in at about 2:30, and about 15 minutes later, I was in a place called Villa Verde. I don't know if you guys know San Juan very well. It then goes to Punta Las Marias, and it goes to another place called Parada 18, and then to Old San Juan, which is a bit like your colonial zone. So you can generate, without anyone's help, your own data set for a number of things. You could try measuring one of the públicos around here. Another thing was geographic data. It doesn't seem, I mean, how does Google Maps work? How does Google Maps draw? How does Google Maps find your directions? Yeah?
I guess they have coordinates, and they make a point-to-point comparison of those coordinates, and they trace the route of the most efficient route.
What kind of coordinates?
Latitude.
Right. So they have a huge table of latitudes and latitudes. This map here is probably 10,000 to 100,000 coordinates. You have to use a bit of JSON. So here, my friend downloaded the lat longs for Puerto Rico, and you get 78 polygons, and you start computing the centroids, and you start computing the boundaries, and you draw them. This is something you could do. You could download all the towns here in DR, and you can draw them yourself. There are even softwares that'll do it for you. But it was interesting to just do it from scratch. You can yourself reproduce basically what Google Maps is. I do not use Google Maps for that picture. That was a pure Python calculation. And then I took all the shapes of the towns and I put them in alphabetical order and I drew them again. So, I mean, I think this is cool because I didn't have to rely on the government to get this information. I didn't have to rely on anyone. This is only using publicly available information, and I'm able to rearrange it in any place, in any way, shape, or form I like. This is why data science is important. This is just kind of a fun example. My friends want to make a t-shirt out of this. But what if you have an app, or what if you have a delivery service and you want to draw where those things are? What if you want to draw where your app is serving? You're going to either use someone else's map or create your own. A big case going on right now, Puerto Rico is getting sued by the United States, and there are going to be two different cases in the Supreme Court. One is Puerto Rico versus Sanchez Valle, and the other is Puerto Rico versus Franklin California Trust. This is the one that they're saying we owe money. This one is asking if Puerto Rico is a separate country or not, if we have sovereignty. I mean, these are big issues on the chopping block this year. Is Puerto Rico a country? Is Puerto Rico a state? What is it? You know, I mean, I think we're the only place in the world that has that type of issue. This one's about an ex-convict, and he's dealing drugs, and he gets tried in the United States, and they find him guilty, right? And they sentence him. Puerto Rico now wants to try him as well, and it went up to the Puerto Rico court And they said, you can't try this man. That'll be double jeopardy. If you already gave him a sentence. You can't give him another one. Puerto Rico says, yes, we can because we're a separate country. So are we or are we not? You know, it's not every day you get issues like that. And this is about how much money we owe, which is about 72 billion. You want some data. You want some data like, who do you owe? What if I came up to you and said, give me money, give me money, give me money? You want to know.
Yeah.
You want to know why. And you want to know for whom. I'm telling you, I give you a letter and saying you owe all of these people. You want to know. And many people, we don't know. So this is why I'm going through all of this searching on my own. If someone came up to you and said you owe money, I think you'd be a little bit upset. I get upset when my phone bill's too high. So I start looking around. Where is this data going to come from? Is there any numbers? Even the government's scared to share any of this information. I mean, here, I'm just giving you a taste of what the headlines are like. It was like Walmart is suing. You guys don't have Walmart, right? No. Wait, there's a department store called, I think it's like Sirena, I think would be comparable here. Imagine Sirena was suing the government. Yeah. But Walmart is so huge that they actually can go toe-to-toe with the Treasury Department. But in the process, we get to learn about our taxes and about the budget. So I just went and clicked on this newspaper, and sure enough, I was able to find a whole copy of this is the 2014 budget for the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. So it's all out there somewhere. It was buried in someone's desk, and just I don't know. I was 2 in the morning, and I clicked on it, and you get all the information you want. So then, what did I do? It was on a PDF. I mean, what happens when you scrape, when you read someone else's PDF file? There's a Python library called PDF Miner, which I recommend you use. And you can take PDFs and you can turn them into XML. But it may be very difficult to read if you try to look at it in the browser. This is in dire need of a cascading style sheet or something. But I opened up in my text browser, and we're actually kind of able to read some of it now. This management's discussion and analyst section, something provides a narrative interview of the analysis of the financial activities of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, known as the Commonwealth, for the fiscal year ending June 13, 2014. From here, we could do just like an HTML analysis again. The entire text of the document, all the charts we ever wanted. It's like we're sitting in the governor's desk. Just using 2 or 3 Python libraries. I had trouble downloading them because my hotel Wi-Fi was slow. So this is as far as I got in that analysis. That's another example, newspapers. The newspapers here have have websites, right? I mean, it could be Entertainment Weekly. It could be, what is it called, Living Diario. It could be any website. So what I did was, I went to the URL from the newspaper, and I used a library called Beautiful Soup, which I recommend you use. Beautiful Soup parses XML. I highly recommend you download Beautiful Soup and use it to parse your favorite websites. It's scraping, what if I said it's picar or like raspar? I'm not sure how you would translate that. I mean, literally, what does your mouse do? You copy it, you click copy paste, and then you stick it in your text editor, right? So this is automating that. And I take the URL, I make a request for that URL or the website where the article is. That HTML can be very badly formed. So it could have a H1 tag and not have a closing H1 tag. So soup is there to fix it. And then I return the processed text. And you see, this is a perfectly good article. El ex jefe de la Fiscalía Federal en Puerto Rico, Julio Morales Sánchez, explicó la manera, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it says. And what's good is once you have this, you can run it a few thousand times. And you can go sip a soda and do whatever you're doing while you have your data set. So there's a bunch of news articles right there. So what else? What other ways can we generate data? Oh, cool. How do you read the newspaper article? I mean, you can read it, you can parse it. How does a computer know? The computer doesn't know a priori what Puerto Rico is. Even that it's a person. Is it a person? Is it a thing? Is it a flavor of ice cream? Is it a music band? The computer doesn't know. So in order to do this, we have something called name density recognition. Dominican Republic. The computer doesn't know what Dominican Republic is. Actually, that works in your favor. How would you look for, okay, quick. How would you look for someone's name in a big pile of text? How would you know it's a name?
Capital letters.
Yes, thank you. So the dead simplest thing you could do without importing a whole library, this is on GitHub by the way, MIT ID, is just to look for things that begin with capital letters. And probably that's going to be a name. You wouldn't know if it was an organization, if it was a thing, if it was a place, but you would get something to work with. So this is what's called text parsing. The good news is it's also been done in Spanish, but you should be careful. The Spanish that they use will probably be Castilian Spanish. If you try to train Dominican Spanish, Caribbean Spanish, we know linguistically, is similar, but has some small differences. So if you collect Dominican text and run a Castilian algorithm on it, it'll be pretty good. The outcome will be pretty good. There would also be issues for Colombian Spanish or Argentinians, wherever you're from, there's going to be regional issues with using a data set that's trained from Spain. But it'll pretty much work, and it's quite fast. And this is what the algorithms give. I think this is pretty good. It picked out that Puerto Rico was a place. It also said that Noticel was a place, which is wrong. It's an organization. Caribe is a location. Colorado, that's part of the United States. Gobierno is an organization. This is not a bad for a machine that doesn't know anything about anyone. So these algorithms you can use out of the box, and they do. You guys use Facebook, right? Facebook auto tags you sometimes, right? How does Facebook know that your face is in there? ¿Cómo Facebook sabe que eso eres tú en la foto? Facebook, sí, Facebook te dice que reconoces a tal persona. Eso eres tú en la foto, esa es la foto de tu amigo. How does it know that? Face recognition is not a simple task. I'm not addressing it here. That's image analysis.
They save up the points for their face.
Mm-hmm.
So they scan their picture, they know it's that person because they have the points and point which person.
Yeah. So, Facebook has billions of people's pictures doing all kinds of things, and it has an algorithm that computes, is this a face? I'm pretty sure it's going to be a neural network to do that type of recognition task. I'm not here to give neural networks would be a whole course in itself, so I'm just here to talk about, do you guys use eBay? I don't know if there's a lot of eBay here. What do you guys use do you guys shop online?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Well, most of our shops are.
Yeah, so I mean, you could write something that guesses what your friend's gonna buy. You know, if your friend buys this, then your friend is gonna buy the other thing too, right? And you're gonna be using a classification algorithm like this. So I think this is a pretty phenomenal outcome considering the minimal amount of effort. I think it's actually quite a bit of effort but I didn't have to write this algorithm from scratch or something, and it works. And this is something anyone in this room could do. So I think that I'm pretty happy with that. And then that's really all I had to say. I'll tell you that the places I had to look were kind of the last place I had. It was always the last place you could look. I went into the tax department, and they have pages of tax forms, and there was something for investors, and that's where I found all my data about Puerto Rico. That type of information is about you, and it's about your money, and it's about your livelihood. And it's something you need to take responsibility for. So you really need to go in your government and talk about how data is open. And hopefully it's not a confrontation. Hopefully it's something the government here already knows to do. And it needs to be accessible. There are lots of people who don't know anything about computers, and you guys are very privileged to know that much. So there's still a lot of work ahead, and that's where I'm going to